Nobody saw it coming. Not the crowd, not the commentators, not even the ones who claimed to predict the unpredictable. The moment the fight was announced, it sent shockwaves through both boxing and MMA circles. Mike Tyson, the undisputed icon of boxing, a force of nature whose name alone could make opponents flinch, stepping into the spotlight once again. But this time, it wasn't against a traditional opponent. Across from him stood Bryce Mitchell, a wild card from the world of MMA, unfiltered, unorthodox, and fiercely proud of his roots. This wasn't just a fight. It was a culture clash, a collision of styles, and a test of wills that no one could script. What happens when a heavyweight legend who once terrified the best in the world stares down a featherweight grappler with no respect for hierarchy? That was the question burning in every fan's mind. Mitchell, known for his raw ground game and outspoken presence, wasn't here to pay tribute. He came to challenge legacy itself, and Tyson, whose fists once rearranged the future of anyone who stood too close, wasn't about to let a younger fighter rewrite history without consequences. The press conferences alone were electric. Tyson's steely glare meeting Mitchell's relentless trash talk, a powder keg threatening to blow before either of them even touched gloves. It wasn't just about the fight, it was about identity. Tyson, representing the old guard, the brutal simplicity of boxing's golden years, against Mitchell, a symbol of modern chaos, agile, scrappy, and impossible to predict. Their training montages lit up social media. Tyson pounding the heavy bag like it owed him something. Mitchell wrestling goats on his farm one day and sparring in a cage the next. The energy around the bout was almost surreal, like a strange dream that somehow made perfect sense. Every move was dissected, every stare captured in slow motion, and the buzz kept building like thunder in the distance. As the date drew closer, the tension didn't let up. It intensified. Pundits argued over weight classes, rules, and outcomes. But none of that mattered once the two men stepped into the ring. It was clear. This wasn't just about skills. It was personal. Tyson looked like he had something left to prove, a message to send to time itself. Mitchell walked in like a man who didn't believe in legends, only moments. No one knew how it would play out. Would Tyson's devastating power translate, or would Mitchell's movement and unpredictability dismantle the myth? And then, under the roaring lights, with the world watching, something happened in the opening seconds that changed the tone entirely. The opening bell hadn't even faded when Bryce Mitchell did something no one expected. He sprinted straight at Tyson. Not cautiously, not circling, but a full-blown charge like a man who didn't recognize the danger in front of him. It was reckless, wild, and in its own twisted way, brilliant. Tyson, known for exploding off the line, was momentarily thrown off by the sudden aggression. The crowd froze. Mitchell wasn't trying to box. He was trying to smother the storm before it could ever form. In a blur, he clinched up, driving Tyson back with raw momentum, forcing the veterans back to the ropes within seconds. What followed was a frantic battle of grips and leverage. Tyson throwing short, punishing hooks to the body, while Mitchell clung to him like a python on adrenaline. But just as it seemed like Mitchell's gamble might be working, Tyson found a sliver of space and let loose a brutal uppercut. It landed flush. Mitchell's head snapped back, and for a second, time seemed to freeze. Commentators gasped. Tyson's face didn't change. He'd seen that reaction before, but instead of folding, Mitchell staggered, blinked, and grinned. Blood at the edge of his lip, eyes wild. He shook it off like it was part of the plan. That grin flipped something in the arena. It wasn't disrespect. It was defiance. Tyson had landed a blow that would have ended lesser men, and Bryce looked like he'd just woken up. In the corner, Tyson's team started yelling adjustments. This wasn't just some upstart making noise. Mitchell had clearly trained for the chaos, and now he was thriving in it. Each exchange was a mess of fists, elbows, and close-range smothering. Tyson couldn't get the space he needed to let his full power fly, and Mitchell kept dragging the fight into unfamiliar territory. The veteran's timing, still dangerous, was being tested in ways the boxing world had never truly seen before. Mitchell, on the other hand, was smiling between rounds, whispering things into the camera that only added fuel to the fire. Then came the twist. Midway through the second, Mitchell changed tactics. He stopped clinching, stopped pushing forward. Suddenly, he started moving like a striker, bouncing on his toes, throwing sharp, awkward jabs that didn't belong in any textbook. It was clear now. The first round pressure wasn't just a brawl. It was a setup. Tyson, expecting another bulldozer charge, found himself chasing. That's when the questions started piling up. Had Mitchell been playing possum? Had this all been a blueprint from the beginning? And most importantly, what happens if Tyson doesn't adapt? Every eye in the arena was locked in, but backstage, whispers began circulating. A few insiders noticed Mitchell's corner man signaling something subtle, something off script. A sequence of gestures, like calling a play. Tyson's coach caught it too. Whatever Mitchell was planning, it wasn't random anymore. It was orchestrated. And just as Tyson loaded up for a left hook that could end it all, Mitchell feinted a shot low, then spun out, leaving Tyson swinging at air. Something was coming. Everyone could feel it, but no one knew just how deep this game really went. Tyson's punch cut through nothing but air, and in that split second, the rhythm of the entire fight shifted. Bryce Mitchell didn't counter immediately. He waited, baiting another strike, then slipped inside with a short elbow that glanced off Tyson's cheek. It wasn't a knockout shot, but it was enough to draw blood, enough to raise eyebrows. Tyson wiped his face and gave Mitchell a look that wasn't anger. It was recognition. This kid wasn't trying to survive the storm. He was the storm, just built differently. The crowd, already on the edge of their seats, went silent for a heartbeat, caught between disbelief and fascination. And then they erupted again, because this wasn't just a contest anymore. It had become a puzzle neither man had solved yet. Mitchell's footwork grew sharper, more confident. He was reading Tyson like a book now, using feints and movement to force the boxing legend into chasing ghosts. Still, Tyson wasn't fading. With every step forward, he pressed with the kind of quiet menace that only years of combat could produce. The punches may have come slower than in his prime, but when they landed, the room shook. One body shot had Mitchell wincing, and suddenly it was clear. He wasn't invincible. For the first time in the fight, Mitchell backed up not out of strategy, but survival. Tyson saw it, so did the world. Then it happened. Midway through the fourth, Mitchell attempted another spinning escape. This time, Tyson was ready. He'd been studying that movement, waiting for the rhythm to repeat. As Mitchell turned, Tyson stepped in and delivered a crushing right hand that stopped him mid-spin. The sound of the impact echoed louder than the crowd. Mitchell stumbled, hit the canvas, and for a moment, everyone thought it was over. But as the ref counted, Mitchell stirred. Groggy, glassy-eyed, but rising. The count hit 8, 9. Mitchell stood up. The entire arena froze again. Tyson, arms low, stared in disbelief. Not many men had ever taken that shot and gotten back up, but Mitchell had. And now, his grin was gone, replaced by something colder, sharper. It wasn't just about pride anymore. He wasn't here for a viral moment or to prove a point. This was survival layered with purpose. In his corner, his coach leaned in and said something quick, and Mitchell nodded once. Whatever was said, it changed his posture completely. As the fifth and final round began, Mitchell walked out with his hands low, almost taunting. Tyson didn't bite. Instead, he cut the ring off and closed the space. But then, right as he stepped in range, Mitchell dropped low, faster than anyone expected, and landed a spinning back elbow square on Tyson's temple. It was the same move he failed with earlier, but this time it landed flush. Tyson's legs buckled. He didn't fall, but he staggered, reaching for the ropes. The crowd lost its mind. Mitchell didn't follow up. He backed away, letting the moment breathe. A silent gesture of respect, or maybe restraint. The bell rang seconds later, and both men stood in the center, battered but upright. The judges were already scribbling, but everyone knew. This fight wasn't about numbers. It was about what it exposed. Tyson, the timeless warrior, had faced a puzzle he couldn't quite crack. Mitchell, the scrappy disruptor, had survived the hardest night of his career and came out having done what most thought was impossible. He didn't beat Tyson clean, but he stood toe-to-toe and forced the world to reconsider what legacy really means. Then, just before the decision was read, Tyson leaned in and whispered something into Mitchell's ear. Mitchell's eyes widened. No mix caught the words. No one knows exactly what was said. But as the decision was announced, a draw, the two men touched gloves and nodded. Not as rivals, but equals. A strange silence fell before the applause began. And backstage, as the cameras cut away, someone close to Mitchell pulled out a contract. Not for a rematch, but for something far bigger. something that would change both sports forever.